Welcome back to the Junkman's Adventures. I'm the Junkman, and today's video is going to be a little bit of a rambling or an opinion video on what's wrong with Harley Davidson. And just to preface this, for all the Harley loyalists and the Harley haters out there, this opinion's coming from someone who's very diverse and has a very dynamic range in their experiences with motorcycles. I either own or have ridden almost every type of motorcycle out there, from street to cruisers to observe trials, motocross, dirt, enduro, and even dabbled in racing. So I have what I think a unique opinion on this, and this is going to be my opinion on what I think of Harley Davidson, not only their motorcycles, but just the brand itself, and maybe where I think the future is for them, or what they could do better. We need to go over a very brief and abridged history for those of you out there who may not know how Harley came and all the things that they've went to get to where they are today, because that affects how my perception of this company is. So let's get to that. 1901. Harley Davidson started with a small displacement engine in a bicycle. By 1903, they had a bike available for the sale to the public. Harley Davidson got in with the war effort in World War I, building some bikes for the military. Then the Great Depression happened. This knocked out a lot of the motorcycle industry because at this time, motorcycles, while still very utilitarian, were more and more a luxury item. So most brands fell to the wayside, but Harley was able to weather the storm. World War II happened. And this again, they stayed afloat by building bikes for the military. And after the war, GIs would buy these military surplus bikes, modify them, start racing them, and the outlaw image was definitely set in and born. The British invasion. Brit bikes started coming in, these lightweight but high-powered motorcycles that could do well over 100 miles an hour, something Harley's never could do previously. Harley started losing market share to them. Even though Brit bikes had some reliability issues and their electronics were not known to be very good, guys that liked to tinker loved them because they were easy to work on and they went fast. Harley had an answer to that. That's where the Sportster came from, is a direct competition to these Brit bikes, and it helped Harley sort of stay afloat through this period. 1959 happened when Honda ushered in a bunch of small displacement, inexpensive but high quality motorcycles, and then subsequent Japanese brands followed shortly thereafter, and by the middle 60s, motorcycling was booming. Harley almost went out of business once, but in 1969, American Machine Foundry, or AMF, bought them out and kind of updated their manufacturing processes. They added a line of bikes that borrowed technology from an Italian company and tried to broaden their market share by offering more entry-level and smaller bikes that were more accessible to the people who were buying the Japanese bikes. It was the right idea, but executed very poorly. In about 10 years, the quality and reputation was sort of tarnished by AMF, even though they updated a lot of models, and some of their techniques and models are some of the bikes that Harley has today. In 1981, AMF sold the company to 13 investors who eventually brought the company back to its roots and that V-twin engine. And from there on, it's basically history. They embarked in a partnership with Buell Motorcycle Company through the 90s, and then in 2003, they eventually owned Buell outright. However, another recession hit, 2007, 2008, and by 2009, they had to cut Buell off and get back to their own core demographic of that V-twin cruiser-style motorcycle. Well, now with getting some of that very brief history out of the way, This is my opinion on Harley Davidson, the company, and where I think their future is. Now, I'm not a hater, but I'm not a lover of their products. And I'm not a lover or a hater of the brand. It has just as much right in the marketplace as any of the other brands or any other brand otherwise out there in the market. But my problem with Harley is I don't know where they can go from here. They've been riding this train for a very long time, and I'm afraid they can't escape it. They can't escape their own brand and image. And honestly, I think they want to get out of that. It seems like in the last several years, they've tried breaking free of that, but they don't want to go too far outside of their comfort zone. And for good reason. They have shareholders and stockholders, and when you try something radical, the public can love it or hate it. Look at some of your other big companies, Apple and Samsung and such. They try new things, and sometimes it's a great success, and sometimes it's a bomb. But Harley, over the years, of course, has tried this, and my thinking is for them to compete and honestly grow as a brand is to get back to what AMF did in the 70s. And if you learn from our little brief history there, AMF pulled Harley out of the dumper, basically, and brought them into a more modern way of thinking with some diversity of bikes. And for me, my perception of Harley would change if they would get back to something like this. Now, this was the right idea executed very poorly. Get a range of bikes. Now, most of you Harley lovers out there is going to say, well, they have tons of models. What are you talking about? Well, they have tons of models that are a variation on only a very handful of platforms, and they all dive into the street realm. They don't get outside the box. The luxury that almost every other motorcycle brand out there has is they compartmentalize their offerings. And granted, when there's an uptick in one, the others fall to the wayside, and they focus on that, and vice versa. But I look at brands like, you can say Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and such, where they have multiple offerings in just one segment, and then if you look at their entire line, they can have up to 20 to 30 models in total, and they have several models within each segment to service a very niche person. Whereas Harley Davidson really doesn't have that. They have it in their cruiser and street motorcycles, but outside of that, they don't really have it. And of course, the biggest thing I hear people say is they perform poorly, they don't stop, they don't handle, and all that. Well, newsflash, they're not supposed to. That segment doesn't care about that. That's why they don't focus on that. But for someone like me that likes diversity in his motorcycling, there's not much that Harley offers me, except for if I'm into cruisers. And eating up mileage with one of their baggers or something. There we go. But after that, there's nowhere else for me to go. I lament, them having to axe Buell, and there's multitudes of reasons for that, and that's a whole video topic on itself. But that made me stand up and look. Back then was like, oh wow, Harley does want to diversify, step outside the bounds a little bit. I remember when the V-Rod hit, and oh my god, the loyalists just went nuts. They hated it. But people like me stood up and be like, wow, Harley, you're thinking about me. I want something that isn't air-cooled. I want something that doesn't look like every other motorcycle out there. And that's the thing. The Japanese, with their cruiser offerings, they just want to be a Harley. And that's why most people won't even look at them if they want to aspire to a Harley. The Japanese will never capture that person or that buyer. However, what they will capture is someone that needs something in the interim before they graduate to a Harley. And that's where Harley stands. And that's where they will stand. And that's why I don't think Harley's going anywhere. I mean, I wouldn't say they're too big to fail, but I don't see them going out of business for a very long time, but I don't see them growing or expanding. If they're expanding, it's going to be laterally, and which is what they're doing here. There's only 1 or 2 models in the past 20 years that they've come out with that I would even consider buying. And everybody knows I own a Buell. I've made a video on it. You can go check that one out. I'll leave a card up here to watch. You can watch all about it. But after that, they don't really have an offering for me. And I don't have the nostalgia that, say, my father does towards the brand and everything. So my recommendation is get back to this. Attempt this, Harley. Just do it better. Don't just buy a brand and then slap your name on it. But I would buy one of these bikes up here. And actually, I do want one of those bikes up there because they're so bad. But they are unique, and they're so not Harley, that's why I want them. I want the anti-Harley that's actually a Harley. Harley Davidsons are great motorcycles. They make a great bike. They're high quality these days, and they just run. And I don't get this why this brand is so polarizing. I think it has to do with the image that they cannot escape. And this is going to be the problem they have going forward. And my opinion of the company is, they make a neat bike, I'll probably buy it. But if they just continue to make cruisers, probably not going to buy one. But that's just my opinion. I thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Hit that notification bell if you want to be notified immediately when videos go live. And also, I live stream a lot on this channel, and I might bring this topic up again in the live stream. So if you'd like to voice your opinion live directly to me and get a dialogue going, watch for maybe a future live stream on this topic. And again, thanks for watching. That's my opinion.